333? That's exactly right. That's true. All right. Oh, we got to get going. Shop right. Yeah. Okay, we'll do it that way. I'm not wearing a lot of wear today, so I don't need it. Honestly. So we're going to begin. Almost got it. You know you've been here long enough when the book starts to open to the page you need it to open to. Ladies and gentlemen, Shabbat Shalom. We are beginning this bright and beautiful morning on page 103 as we rise for Berkot HaShachar. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lasech v'bina lahavchin ben yom uben layla. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shesani betzalmo. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shesani ben chorin. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shesani Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam pokeach ivrim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam malbish arumim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam matir asurim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam zokef kefufim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam rokah haaretz al hamayim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamechim et tzadei gaver. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shesali kol tzorki. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ozer Yisrael bigvura. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam oter Yisrael b'tifara. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hanoten le'ya'ef koach. May be seated. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ha'ma'avir she'eino me'enai v'nam yafapai. U'teneinu hayom u'v'chol yom l'cheinu chesed u'rachamim ve'enei chol ra'inu v'tikmalenu chasadim tovim Baruch atah Adonai gomel chasadim tovim le'amo Yisrael. We're on 105. Le'olam yehei adam yirei shamayim v'seiter v'galui ribon kol olamim. Ashreinu matov chelkinu mana'im grolenu ma'yafaya rushatenu Ashreinu shanachnu mashkimim u'ma'arivim erev vavoker v'yomrim ba'mayim b'chol yom Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed Atahu Ad Shalom Nivra Kadesh et Shimcha Makdishei Shemecha V'Kadesh et Shimcha B'Olamecha U'Vishuatcha Tarim V'Tegbia Karnenu Baruch Atah Adonai Mekadesh et Shimcha Barabim. On the next few pages, you will find selected texts. Direct your attention. You can certainly study on your own if you wish. If not, if you'll direct your attention to 107, there's a Talmudic passage from Kiddushin. Ele devarim she'adam ochel. These are the deeds that yield immediate fruit and continue to yield fruit in time to come. And you'll look at the list: honoring parents, performing deeds of kindness and love, attending the house of study morning and evening, providing hospitality, visiting the sick, helping the needy bride, attending the dead, probing the meaning of prayer, making peace between one person and another, and between husband and wife. And the study of Torah is the most basic of them all. This is several of these you will find in our Torah reading today as part of our Holiness Code. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And looking at the text itself, you'll see it. But keep this text in mind as we move forward in today studying Kedoshim, Parashat Acharemot and Kedoshim, these themes of how we live a proper life, how we get the most out of life is doing these mitzvot that really engage us in the world around us. So keep those in mind as we turn to page 110, and you will find the top paragraph as we conclude. Yehi ratzon milfanecha Adonai Eloheinu v'lehevotenu v'imotenu shetiten chalkenu b'toratecha v'nihi emi talmidav shel Aharon hakohen ohev shalom v'rodev shalom ohev et habriot u'mekarvan laTorah. With that, we turn to page 111 as we've done our brief study. You'll find Kaddish de Rabbanan. We rise as we join together. Yit gadal v'yit kadash shemei rabbah Bialma divrach irute biamlich malchute b'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala ubizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevarach leolam ulomei olmaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei dekudesha b'richu Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran bi'alma v'imru, amen. Al Yisrael v'al Rabbanan v'al Talmidehon, v'al kol Talmidehon, v'al kol man da'oskim v'al raita, di v'atra hadain v'di v'chol atar v'atar. Yehei lehon ulechon shlama rabba, china v'chista v'rachamin, v'chayin arichin, u'mezona revicha, Ufor kana min kodam avuhon di vishmaya ve'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim tovim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael ve'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav hu barachamav ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru, amen. May be seated if you wish. You'll find the Psalm for Shabbat, page 112. Hayom Yom Shabbat Kodesh Shebo Hayu Halvim Omrim Beveit HaMikdash Mizmor Shir Leyom HaShabbat Tov Lehodot Ladonai Ozamer Lishim Chayon. Tzadika Tamar Yifrach Ke'erez Balevanon Yizgeshetulim Beveit Adonai Bechatzrot Eloheinu Yafrichu Od Yenuhavon Beseva Teshenim Verananim Yiyu Lahagid Ki Ashar Adonai Tzuri Tzuri Velo Avlatabo. Page 120, you'll find the 30th Psalm. Leman yisamercha chavod v'lo yidam Adonai Elohai le'olam odeka. Page 121, you'll find Kaddish Shatom, our mourner's Kaddish. All those reciting, if you'll rise and join with me. Yit gadal v'yit kadash shemei rabbah v'alma divrach hirute v'yamlich malchute v'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehe shmei rabbah mevarach le'olam olomei olmaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei dekudesha brichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran v'alma v'imru amen. Yehe shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. We rise on page 122 for Baruch She'amar. Baruch She'amar v'haya ha'olam Baruch hu Baruch Osev Reshit Baruch Omer v'Yoseh Baruch Gozerum Kayem Baruch Merachem al ha'aretz Baruch Merachem al ha'briot Baruch Meshalem Sachar Tov l'Reav Baruch Ad la'ad v'kayam la'netzach Baruch Podeu Matzil, Baruch Shemo, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Ha'el ha'barachaman hamulal b'fi amo, Mishubach u'mfa'ar b'lshon chasida ve'avada, V'vshivrei David avdecha, Nehalelcha Adonai Eloheinu, Bishvachot uvizmerot negadelcha unshabechecha unfa'ercha v'naskir shimcha v'namlichecha malkeinu Eloheinu yachid chei ha'olamim melech meshubach umfa'ar adel shemo hagadol Baruch atah Adonai melech mehulal batishbachot. You are welcome to be seated. We turn over to 136. There you'll find Ashrei. Ashrei Yoshvei Beitecha Od Yelu Chasela Ashrei Am Shekacha Lo Ashrei Am Shadonai Mohabti La LeDavid. פותחת ידך, משביע לכל חי רצון, צדיק אדוני בכל רחב. Shomer Adonai Tihilat Adonai Yadaber Pi Vivarech Obasar Shem Kodsho Le'olam Va'ed Va'anachnu Nevarech Ya Me'atav Yad Olam Hallelujah. 137 Hallelujah Lali Nafshi Et Adonai Zamar Lalai Le'odi El Tiktachubani Yadena Dam Shema Teshua Tetzer. Adonai shomer et gerim yatom v'amana yoded v'derech hashayim yavet im loch Adonai le'olam Elohech tzion l'dor v'ador. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Ki tov zamra Eloheinu ki na'im navati hilah b'nei Yerushalayim. We're on 138. Shabachi Yerushalayim et Adonai Elohech Tzion. Magi divarav liYaakov, chukav u'mishpatav liYisrael, lo asachen lechogoy, u'mishpatim bal yidaum. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Et Adonai min hashamayim, hallelujah, b'amramim, hallelujah, kol malachav, hallelujah, kol tziva'av. Vayarem keren le'amo tehila l'chol chasidav lifnei Yisrael karavo. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Shir l'Adonai, shir chadash tehilatan l'chol chasidim. Lehesor malchechem bizikim b'nichbedechem b'chavlei varzel la'asot bahem mishpat katuv hadarhu l'chol chasidav. Hallelujah. 141 at the top. Hallelujah, 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 bekodsho. Hallelujah, hallelujah, birkia uzo. Hallelujah, 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 vig vorotav. Hallelujah, hallelujah, kerov good law. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 b'tei gashofar. Hallelujah, hallelujah, b'nevel v'chinor. Hallelujah, 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 b'tof umachol. Hallelujah, hallelujah, b'minim ve'ugav. Hallelujah, 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 b'til tzolei shama. Hallelujah, hallelujah, b'til tzolei teruah. Kol haneshama tehallel, hallelujah, hallelujah. Kol haneshama tehallel, hallelujah. Kol haneshama tehallel, hallelujah. Baruch Adonai Le'olam, Amen ve'Amen. Baruch Adonai Mitzion Shechon Yisraelim, Hallelujah. Baruch Adonai Elohim Eloi Yisrael, Oseni Flot Levado, Uvaruch Shem Kvodo Le'olam, V'Melech Kvodo et Kol ha'aretz. Amen ve'amen. We rise 142. Vayivarech David et Adonai le'neko hakoho ve'yomer David Baruch atah Adonai Elohei Yisrael. Atahu levadecha atasita et hashamayim shemei hashamayim v'chutz v'chol asher. Atahu Adonai Elohim asher bacharta bi'Avram v'hotzeto me'or kastim v'samta shemo Avraham u'matzato et levavo ne'eman lefanecha v'charad imon habrit latet et eretz haknani achiti amorim afrizi avivti v'terem et oni v'tim mitzrayim v'tzakatam shamata v'suftetim v'tzadmatim ki v'ata ki chesed. V'hayam v'kata lifneihem v'yaru b'toch haya b'yabasha v'yetrod fehem hishlach tabim sulot kamo even b'mayim azim. 143. V'yosh Adonai v'yom halut yismeram yisrael. V'yar Yisrael mitzrayim meit al sfat hayam. V'yar Yisrael et hayad hagdola asher asa Adonai b'mitzrayim. V'yiruham et Adonai v'yameinu Adonai uv'Moshe avdo. Az yashir Moshe uvanei Yisrael et hashira hazot l'Adonai vayomru le'mor ashira l'Adonai ki ga'oga sus v'rach v'rahama vayam Ozi v'zimrat ya v'yehi li lishua ze'eli v'yan ve'hu Elohei aviva arom amenhu Adonai ish milchama Adonai shemo markevot paro v'chelo yaharavayam umivchar shalishatu b'yam suf talmud yichas yumu Amen. Mi chamocha ve'elim Adonai mi kamocha nidara kodesh norati hilado sefelen atita achita v'chastecha anzuka alta. Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed Ki l'Adonai amlucha Moshe b'goyim v'yalu Moshe b'hartzion lishpot et har Esav v'hayta l'Adonai amlucha v'haya Adonai l'melech kol ha'aretz v'yom hahu yiyeh Adonai echad Ushemo echad. You are welcome to be seated. We're on 145. Nishmat kol chai tevarech et shimcha Adonai Eloheinu v'ruach kol basar tefa'er t'nei zivcha v'yala mata mevaladecha im lana melech el Mashiach. Mitzrayim v'atzon v'Adonai Eloheinu mibeit avadim b'ditares. We're on the very bottom of 146. Nehalelcha unshabechecha unva'ercha unvarechet shem kodshecha ka'amor leDavid. Barchi nafshi et Adonai v'chol kravai et shem kodsho. Ha'el b'ta'tumot uzecha, hagadol b'chvod shemecha, hagibor lanetzach v'hanora b'norotecha, hamelech ha'yoshev al kisei ram v'nisan. Yeah, we conclude our preliminary brachot and tefillot that get us into the mood for our Shabbat worship this morning. We are on 147 as Rabbi Richards takes the reins for Shacharit.
Shochen ad marom bekadosh shemo. Vechatuv ranenu tzadikim b'Adonai laisharim na v'tehila b'fi yesharim titalal u'b'divrei tzadikim titbarach ובלשון חסידים תתרומם ובקרב קדושים תתקדש ובמקהלות רבבות עמך בית ישראל ברינה יתבר שמך שכן חובת כל יצרים לפניך אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו להודות, להלל, לשבח, לפאר, לרומם, להלל, לברך, להלל ולקהלס על כל דברי שירות ותשבחות דוד בן ישי עבדך משיחך. Please rise. ישתבח שמך לעד מלכנו אל המלך. שיר שמע. מלכות, ברכות והודות, מעתה ועד עולם, ברוך אתה אדוני, אל מלך גדול ותשבחות, אל ההודות אדון הנפלאות, הבוחר בשירי זמרה, מלך מלכי העולמים, יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה. ועמד דברה כנרתי והמליך מלכותי וחייכון ובימכון וחיי לכל בית ישראל וגלה בזמן קריב ימרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם עולם העלמיה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה בריחו ואלה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמא ויאמרו אמן. ברכו את אדוני המבורך. ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם יוצר אור ובורא חושך עושה שלום וברא את הכל. You may be seated. We're 4 lines down on page 150. הכל יהודך והכל ישבחך והכל יאמרו עם קדוש אדוני. נציך אין קרקך ואין זולתך אפס בלתך ומדומה לך. אין קרקך אדוני אלוהינו בעולם הזה ואין זולתך מלכנו לחיי עולם הבא. אפס בלתך גואלנו לימוד המשיח ואין דומה לך מושיענו לתחיית המתים. We turn to page 151 as we'll sing together El Adon. El Adon ala kol amasim baruch umvorach befi kol neshama godlo betuvo malei olam datut vona sovevim moto המתגאה על חיות הקודש, ונדע בכבוד על המרכבה, זכות ומישור לפני חיסו, חסד ורחמים לפני כבודו, טובים מאורות שברא אלוהינו יצרם, ודעת בבינה ובהשכל, כוח וגבורה נתן בהם להיות מושלים בקרב תבל, מלאים זיו ומפיקים נוגה, נאה זיום בכל העולם, שמחים בצאתם וששים בבואם, עושים בהם הרצון קונם, פאר וכבוד נותנים לשמוץ אללה, ורינה לזכר מלכותו קרא לשמש, ויזרח אורה, והתקין צורת הלבנה, שבח נותנים לו, קוצב מרום, תפארת וגדולה, שרפים ואופנים וחיות הקודש, לאל אשר שבת מכל המעשים. זה שבח יום. וארץ מתחת. תתברך מושיענו על שבח מעשה ידיך, ואמרי אור שעשית יפרוך הסלע. Page 153. תתברך צורנו, מלכנו וגואלנו. מקדשים. כולם אהובים, כולם ברורים, כולם גיבורים, וכולם עושים במעביר ורצון קונם, וכולם פותים מביעים בקדושה וטהרה, בשירה ובזמרה, מברכים שבחים, ומפארים ומריצים, ומקדישים, וממליכים את שם האל המלך, הגדול הגיבור והנורא קדוש הוא. וכולם מקבלים עליכם המלכות שמיים זה מזה, ונותנים רשות זה לזה, להקדיש יוצא מנחת רוח, בשפה ברימת רוח קדושה, כולם כאחד עונים ואומרים בהירה, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלך כל הארץ כבודו. ואופנים וחיות הקודש, באשקלון מנסים למצרפים, לעומתם משבחים ואומרים, ברוך כבוד אדוני, ממקומו לאל ברוך לימוד יתנו. מחדש. אור חדש על ציון תאיר, ונזכה כולנו מהר על האורו. אור חדש על ציון תאיר, ונזכה כולנו מהר על האורו. ברוך אתה אדוני יוצא המאורות. Turn to page 154. We gather our seat as we get to the bottom of the page, the corners of our talit, in hopes of bringing together the world in peace and harmony. Page 154, we'll sing together Ahava Rabbah. Ahava Rabbah Avtanu Adonai Eloheinu Chem Lagidol Avitera Chamat Aleinu Avinu Malkeinu Ba'avor Avotenu Shabbat Chovecha Avinu Malkeinu Vatelamdem Chukei Chaim Ken techonenu tlamdenu Avinu Avarachaman Hamerachem Rachem Aleinu Veten belibenu lehavin ulahaskir lishmoa lilemon ulelamed lishmor velasot ולקיים את כל דברי תלמוד תורתך באהבה. והערננו בתורתך, ודבק ליבנו במצוותיך, ויחד לבבינו, באהבה יראה את שמך, ולא נבוש לעולם בהן, ולא נבוש לעולם בהן, כי בשם קודשך הגדול והנורא בטחנו, נגילה ונשמחה, נגילה ונשמחה בישועתך. והביאנו לשלום מארבע כנפות הארץ, ותוליכנו קוממיות, קוממיות לארצנו. כי אל פועל ישועות אתה, ובנו בחרת מכל המלשון, וקרבתנו לשמך הגדול, סלע באמת להודות לך. יחדך באהבה. ברוך אתה אדוני, הבוחר בעמו ישראל באהבה. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. Let's read together in the English on the left side of the page 155. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all that is yours. These words that I command you this day shall be taken to heart. Teach them again and again to your children. Speak of them when you sit in your home, when you walk on your way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. Bind them as a sign upon your hand and as a symbol above your eyes. Inscribe them upon the doorposts of your home and on your gates. We continue silently on page 156. Something. And we continue together in the second paragraph on page 156, our Vayomer paragraph, which talks about the tzitzit, the corners of our talit, and how the fringes are to remind us of all the commandments, all the mitzvot, all the ways that God wants us to walk in the world. Page 156, the second paragraph. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe lemor, daber el bnei Yisrael, ve'amarta alehem, ve'asu lahem tzitzit al kanfei bigdehem ledorotam, v'natnu al tzitzit, hakanaf b'tzil techelet, v'haya lachem letzitzit, v'ritem oto, וזכרתם את כל מצוות אדוני, ועשיתם אותם, ולא תטורו אחרי לבבכם, ואחרי עיניכם, אשר תנזונים אחריהם, למען תזכרו, ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם באמת יצאים לכם. Page 157, אמת. לדור ודור קיים ושמו קיים, מחיסון נכון ומלכותו במנת תולד קיים, עד דבריו חיים וקיימים. אמנים. בעד אמת. אמת שתהו אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, מלכנו מלך אבותינו, גואלנו גואל אבותינו, יוצרנו צור ישועתנו, פדינו מצאנו מעולם שמך אין אלוהים זולתך, עזרת אבותינו אתה ומעולם מגן משיח, רום עולם נשמך אשרי איש ישמע. אמת. גואל משיח. Page 158. Maybe it's something. Not new. Ram the Nisa. Tehillat el Elyon, Baruch Barach, Moshe u'Miriam u'Bnei Yisrael, Echanu shira b'simcha rabba ve'amru cholam, Michem hocha b'helim Adonai, Michem hocha nedar b'kodesh, Nahar ha'tehilot, Osef ele, Shira chadasha shibechol geolim, Leshim chasvatayam, Yachad kolam hodu, Vehimlichu ve'ameru, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Please rise. Tzor Yisrael, Koma be'ezrat Yisrael, Uvdechenu mecha, Yehuda ve'Yisrael, Go'aleinu Adonai tzvahot shemo, Kedosh Yisrael, Baruch atah Adonai, Gal Yisrael. We'll begin the Amidah together on page 159. We'll continue together all the way through 161 in the Kedusha, and then go silently through the rest of the way of our Amidah. When you are finished with your Amidah, of course, you're welcome to be seated. Page 159. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avoteinu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei Akol, Vezocher Chasdei Avot, Umevi Goel Livnei Bneihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Velechozer Foked Umoshio Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Abraham, Uvoked Sarah, אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיים מתים אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מחלקל חיים בחסד, מחיים מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופך אוהדים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומדום מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים. ברוך אתה אדוני לחיי המתים. נקדש את שמך בעולם כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב ליד נביאך וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות, בתוך הארץ כבודו. אז בקודש גדול, אדיר וחזק משמיעים קול, מנסים למטרפים לעומתם, ברוך יאמרו, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. ממקומך מלכנו תופיע, ותמלוך עלינו כי מחכים אנחנו לך. מתי תמלוך בציון, בקרב בימינו לעולם ועד תשכון. תתגדל ותתקדש בתוך ירושלים עירך, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, ולנצח נצחים. ועינינו תראנה מלכותך, כדבר האמור בשירי עוזך, על ידי דוד משיח צדקך, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהיך ציון, לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, לשבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד, כי המלך גדול וקדוש אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. If you're still praying the Amidah, feel free to continue. Otherwise, we continue with Kaddish Shalem on page 167. Yitkara v'yitkara shemei Rabba be'alma divra kirte ve'amlich malchute v'chayechon v'yimechon v'chayed chol beit Yisrael v'galav izman kari ve'himeru Amen Yehi shemei Rabba mevarach le'olam olam le'olmaya Yitparach v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadai v'yitale v'yitalash merekodesha b'richo le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechmata tamirhan be'ama v'imeru Amen Titkapal tloton v'uton dechol Yisrael kodam v'hon v'yishmai v'imeru Amen Yehi shlama rabba min shamaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imeru Amen Ohoseh shalom himram hab Yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'himeru. Amen.
We turn to 168. If you'll turn the next page, you'll find Seder Hotza'at Torah, our service for taking out and studying the Torah. Samuel, will you come up and help us? That would be lovely. Thank you. Either way. You can do it. Oh, does he need it?
No, great.
Cool. Page 168. Again, you'll find the beginning of the Torah service as we go ahead and rise. And those with you honors to come up and open the ark, you're welcome to head your way up here. 168.
Malchutecha malchut kol olamim umemshaltecha v'chol dor v'ador Adonai melech Adonai malach Adonai imloch leolam va'ed Adonai oz le'amo yiten Adonai Yivarech et Amo v'shalom Araramim Heitim b'virtzon ha'etzion Tivnech Homot Yerushalayim Tivnech Homot Yerushalayim Givecha levat batachnu Melech el Ram ben Isa Adonai Vayhi mitzoharon Vayomer Moshe Kuma Adonai Ve'afutzu oivecha Ve'lanusu mitzanecha Mipanecha Ki mitzion tetzei Torah Ki mitzion tetzei Torah U'devar Adonai miYerushalayim Baruch shenatan Torah Torah Baruch shenatan Torah Torah Le'amo Yisrael B'Kedushato.
Page 170.
Kadisha Yakira Ana Emar Tushbechan Be'ana Rachet Be'ana Rachet Lebishme Kadisha Kadisha Yakira Ana Emar Tushbechan ותפתח ליבי לאורייתא, ותשלים משתלים דליבי, ולהיבדק כל עמך ישראל, לתנא חיים ולשלח. Amen.
Page
Shem.
170, 172. 171, you'll find Shema Echad Gadlu. We repeat after each of the first two lines as Samuel leads us.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh
Shema, Gadol Adonai iti,
Romem Hashemo Yachdav, Lecha Adonai Hagedula V'Hagevura V'Tiferet V'Hanetzach V'Hahod Ki'Ho B'Shamayim Ba'aretz Ki'Ho B'Shamayim Ba'aretz Lecha Adonai Hamamlacha Ve'amid Naseh L'Chol Rosh Ramemu Adonai Eloheinu Ve'hishtachavu Le'adam Raglav Kadoshu Ramemu Adonai Eloheinu Ve'hishtachavu Le'ar Kodsho Hikadosh Adonai Eloheinu. You are welcome to be seated.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. I want to talk about one of my favorite double parshiot. Just happens to be this week's double parsha of Achrei Mot Kedoshim. Hope that doesn't bode well and poorly for the sermon. One second. Whoops. That'll play into the theme later. But Achrei Mot Kedoshim is one of my favorite double parshiot because of the theme that I think runs through it. There's a connecting point. We talk about in the rabbinic tradition how parshiot are smuchot, how a parsha next to another parsha, a section of the Torah that's next to another section of the Torah, has some connecting theme, some connecting value that unites them in some way. And the rabbis find all sorts of different ways to connect parshiot, and my favorite is Achrei Mot Kedoshim. And they don't state it explicitly, but I think through the Midrash and the Parsha itself, it becomes pretty clear what the theme of Achrei Mot Kedoshim is and what connects them. You see, Achrei Mot talks about Achrei Mot, after the death of Aaron's two sons. Aaron had 4 sons. 2 of them died when they offered alien fire that God had not commanded. And so there was a death. Then there were a bunch of rules. And now it's after the death. What happened after the death? They get more rules, by the way. And sort of a sad place to be sitting in after the death. The people don't really know exactly what to do. And so God is telling them, well, you do this, you do that. And we get the rules about Yom Kippur, how you're supposed to take 2 goats and put sins on one of them and send it to the wilderness, to Azazel, whatever that is. Really funky stuff. And then the other one you sacrifice to God. What's the deal? Sin, sadness, etc. But there's something to be done to move on. And then we have Parshat Kedoshim. And in Parshat Kedoshim, we have sort of a different theme, because whereas Achrei Mot immediately starts Achrei Mot after the death, Parshat Kedoshim immediately starts, be like me and you will live. So we go from a place of death to a place of life in the span of a few pages, a few psukim. Really fascinating transition. What is going on there? One of the cool things the rabbis say is, it sounds easy to be like God, or maybe it doesn't sound easy to be like God, depends on who you are. They say it sounds easy to be like God until you start to look at what God can do and what humans can't do, and then it becomes overwhelming. And they give an example in Leviticus Rabbah. They say, you want to be like God. God says, be like me, and you'll be holy. And then you say to yourself, well, God can be a flaming fire. Can I be a flaming fire? And the answer is no, not more than once. And then you say to yourself, okay, well, what else can God do that maybe I can do? Well, God can ride on clouds. Can I ride on clouds? And the answer, again, is probably not. And they say, okay, God can be a Lord of hosts and armies and the heavens. Can I do that? And the answer keeps being no, no, no. I can't do any of the things that God does. How can I ever be holy like God? And you might feel despair, and then it's so great. I'm not making it up, because the Midrash immediately says, but you can be like God, because there's something that God did that you can do, that you should do, that you must do. What did God do that you must do? You need to plant. You need to be a farmer. You need to plant things. How do we know that God planted? When did God plant? Immediately after the world was created, God planted the garden in Eden. Right? God's a farmer first. God does other stuff later. God's also a matchmaker, if you're interested, but especially relevant to my life. But God's a planter. We learn that immediately. It says, God planted a garden in Eden, so you too must plant. You need to take time to plant in your life. And then it goes even further and it says, and you should never refrain from planting. As long as you're alive, you should always be planting. And we might say to ourselves, as Rabbi Cohen put it so nicely yesterday, Kedoshim is full of beautiful things. Love your neighbor as yourself is one of the most beautiful. Why isn't that how we can emulate God? Well, it is, but the rabbis picked on planting in this case for some reason, and I think I know why. To understand why they picked planting, we have to understand what planting really is. Is it literally putting seeds into the ground and watching them turn into a tree or a vegetable? It could be, but maybe it's something else. They tell a delightful story in Midrash Tanchuma on the Parsha. They say, it says to plant. That reminds us of a story once of Hadrian. You know Hadrian, big Roman emperor. Well, when he was younger, he was running around, still the emperor, I guess, but younger. He was going around doing military campaigns. He was conquering this province and that province. And he came across an old man one time. And he saw the old man out in his field. And the old man was working really, really hard, planting these saplings. And he said to the old man, what are you doing? And the old man said, I'm planting these fig saplings. And he said, if you know the Choni Ma'agal story, this is going to sound especially relevant. He said, why are you planting saplings of fig trees? You're very old. I doubt you'll live many more years. You're not going to get to eat the figs, which, by the way, is a rude way to say something. But Hadrian, when you're the emperor, you talk how you want. And the old man said, yeah, maybe. Maybe you're right, maybe I won't get the figs, but maybe I'll merit. I can hope and pray that maybe I will live long enough to eat some of these figs. And if I don't, maybe my descendants will eat the figs. So it's not a waste. It's a good use of my time. And Hadrian shook his head and he said, no, you've got it all wrong. What a waste. I would love to see the day when you're still alive and there are figs on that tree. And then he walked away. And that was it. That was their encounter, and it was done. And then Hadrian went and he conquered a bunch. And then he was being emperor a few years later, and he was sitting in his throne room when all of a sudden his guards said, oh, there's some old man here to see you. And Hadrian said, that's strange. Let him in. Sure enough, this old man came up, and he had this bowl full of figs. And he handed it to the guards, and he told them a message. And the guards went up to Hadrian, and they said, this old man says he knows you. That he was the old man who was planting fig saplings a few years ago, And you said you wanted to see the figs while he was still alive, if that was the case, so he brought them. And Hadrian smiled, and he said, all right. So he took the figs out of the bowl, and he placed gold inside the bowl, and he gave the bowl back to the old man. And he said, may you be blessed for your hope. And the old man was dismissed. The old man went home, and like anybody who just won the lottery, he was overjoyed, and he started dancing around the house. I've got all this money. The emperor took my fruit, and I have money. And his wife and kids got excited, and his grandkids, and everybody was dancing around to the point where the next door neighbors could hear. And next door was a neighbor who wasn't so nice, and her husband wasn't so nice. And she just heard the part about fruit and gold from the emperor, and she said, hey, I have a plan to get rich quick. Let's go get all different types of fruit, put them in a bowl, and you, my husband, go to the emperor. He exchanges gold for fruit. What a sucker. We got more types than figs, though. We also have, I don't know what they had, oranges, apples, things that they definitely had. Take them to the emperor. We're going to get so rich. This is easy. Here's an even bigger bowl than he brought. So her husband was like, okay, yeah, that sounds good. Let's get rich quick. He took the bowl to the emperor. The guard said, there's a man at the gate. He says he has something for you. The emperor said, sure, bring him in. He gave him the bowl of fruit. He said, hey, emperor, I heard you like to exchange gold for fruit. Bring it on. And the emperor said, oh, I'll bring it on. He said, come over here. Stand near my chair. I'm going to move out of the way. He said, all the guards, pick up a piece of fruit and throw it at that man's head. So they all took fruit and they threw it at the man's head, and he got very bruised and bloody. It was not in a good way. So he stumbled home after this. The emperor dismissed him. He went home, came in, saw his wife, and started yelling at her. Why did you tell me to do that? What a horrible thing to tell me to do. They pelted me with fruit. And she said, hey, hold on. Be grateful I didn't put the melons in the bowl. Which is great. The Midrash has a great sense of humor. But then, getting back to the serious point, the story ends and it says, by the way, you can never stop planting. You need to be like God. Just as God planted a garden in Eden, God does not eat the fruit, and yet there is something worthy about planting. And so we say to ourselves, what is planting? Is it literally putting fig saplings in the ground? It can be. But let's look at the old man. Why was he planting? Was he planting to eat the fruit? Or was he planting because he believed that there would be a tomorrow that he might be a part of? And if there was going to be a tomorrow, he wanted to continue to sustain the world that day. Did he believe that there would be generations after him that might need that fruit, that might need that hope? And so he planted, saying, maybe tomorrow will be a reality, and I can't afford to not busy myself with preparing for that possible tomorrow. That's what planting is. Planting is putting the seeds of hope in the ground and saying tomorrow might exist, and I need to be ready just in case. The next generation might need this, so I need to be the one to foster it. Now we can ask ourselves, why did God therefore put a garden in Eden? Right? If we're supposed to plant like God, and God planted in Eden, and it says explicitly in the Midrash, God doesn't eat fruit, then why does God need a garden in Eden? But Eden is hope, right? We started in Eden. You might say it's the beginning, but it's not the end. But if you look at what happens, if we look at our El Male, what do we say? Began Eden. That's where our loved ones go. That's paradise. That's the end. That's what we hope for. That's the next level. God planted hope in the world as his first action. God puts the seeds of possibility, right? And if we want to take it one step further, we can look at Achrei Mot Kedoshim and say, after death, what do we need? We need planting. We need life, right? We need to remember that the seasons have all sorts of different things, and things die, but that's not the end. If we dwell on the end of Achrei Mot, after the sons die, then we never move on to what the other sons do. We never move on to anything. We're just stuck in death. And God says, no, that's wrong. To be like me, you need to continue to sow hope in the world. You need to continue to see new life in the world. And it's one of the reasons why I think planting is picked Because planting is all about the future. When you plant, you have to be an idiot or have a lot of faith that the world will continue, because all your hard work won't actually show any results for a long, long time. But God says, hey, I have faith that y'all will one day return to the Garden of Eden, so you need to have faith that my world will continue to function. You need to continue to plant. And my favorite teaching in a vote to Rabbi Natan is what Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai says about planting. Planting is so important, and I think he's talking about the planting we're talking about here, and not literal trees necessarily. He says planting is so important that if Mashiach, the Messiah, came the moment you started planting, today you go out, don't do it on Shabbos, you go out tomorrow, you begin to plant a tree, and the Messiah shows up, and everybody's like, the Messiah is here, come and see. Are you allowed to put the tree down? You are not. You need to finish planting before you can greet the Messiah. And you look at him like he's an idiot, like the Messiah signals end times. But look, the planting serves two purposes. First, if it is the Messiah, it doesn't hurt to do a little extra planting. If it's end times and that tree will never grow, so fine. How much time have you wasted, right? Messianic times are here, let's party. Fine. Now imagine it's not the Messiah. Imagine, I don't know, it's hope that's unfulfilled. Well, you can't afford to stop tending to this world in hopes that things will just get better on their own. It's your job to continue to put hope into the ground and cultivate that, to continue to sustain the world until we're told to stop, right? And that's why Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai says you need to finish planting before the Messiah shows up. Or even when the Messiah shows up, don't greet him until you finish planting, because planting is essential. And it's such an important lesson for all of us now, because we're a little more than a year after COVID, this challenging virus. And it's still here. And we might want to sit in the pits of despair. We might want to sit in Acharei Mot and say, oi, look at all the, God forbid, but it's happened already and it's going to continue to happen. Look at all the deaths that have occurred as a result of this. Look at all the challenges we are facing. Don't you wish you could take off your mask right now? But you can't, right? Because we're not done yet with the challenges. And at the same time, it's a double parsha, and it says, yeah, Acharei Mot, there are challenges, and you will sit in them and be sad. But Kedoshim, there is planting, there is growth, there is new life on the way. It's up to us to continue to sustain it. The reason why we keep our masks on now is because we're looking toward a healthy tomorrow. And if we're not smart about it today, then there is no tomorrow. It's the opposite of planting, it's uprooting, right? And we're told never to uproot anything in the world. And so our job is to learn that yes, Acharei Mot is a part of life, but it's always followed by Kedoshim. There is death, but to you, you will be Kodesh. You will be holy. You will live in the holiness. And the first step is to plant. You can literally go out tomorrow and plant a tree. It's good for the environment. But more importantly, continue to sow the seeds of hope, the seeds of sustenance for the next generation. We've got a long way to go and a lot of work to do, and yet we still have the time. We're not here to mail it in or say, it's not my problem, right? The Jewish way is to say, I'm going to be holy. I'm going to start today. I'm going to plant the seeds for hope and sustain the world through them. Shabbat Shalom.
Yasher Koach. So you will find the Torah reading this morning from Kedoshim. We'll be reading the Holiness Code from Kedoshim. Page 693 is where we will begin. Yeah, either way.
Vayazor, ve'agan v'yoshia lecho hachosim bo, v'nomar amen. Hakol havu godel Eloheinu utnu kavod laTorah yamod. Abraham ben Yosef, Aliyah Rishona, Baruch Shenatan Torah Le'amo Yisrael, Bikdushato, Ve'atem Dvikim Baronai Elehechem, Chaim Kochem Hayom.
Again, we're on 693.
Baruch Hu es Adonai Hamvarach. Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Li Olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olam. Asher Bacha Banu Mikol Hamim. V'natan Lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Vayidaber Adonai el Moshe lemor, daber el kol adat b'nei Yisrael, v'marta lehem kedoshim to you, ki kadosh ani Adonai Elohechem, Ishimo v'aviv tira'u v'et shabtotai tishmoru, ani Adonai Elohechem, al tifnu el ha'elilim Elohei masecha lo tasu lachem, ani Adonai Elohechem.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olam. Asher natan lanu Torat emet. V'chayei olam nata b'sochenu. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
We are in this section again of the Holiness Code. We're going to be 694, verse 5. And you will see these are all mitzvot that, as Rabbi Richards gave us a wonderful teaching about, that help us to plant for the future, that help us to plant now to create a better world. We're going to be on 694, verse 5.
Ya'amon.
Yoel ben Yehuda.
Yoel ben Yehuda. Maybe. Aliyah Shniha.
Baruch Hu es Adonai Hamvarach. Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olam. Asher bachar banu mikol hamim. Natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
L'Adonai l'rtzonchem tizbachuhu, vayom zivachem yeachel mimocharat, lahanotar ad yom hashlishi ba'esh yisarev, ve'im heachol yeachel ba'yom hashlishi, pigulhu lo yeratzeh, ve'ochlav avono yisa, ki et kodesh Adonai chilel, v'nichreta nefesh hahi me'ameha, uvkutzrachem ekatzir artechem lo techale pe'atzadcha liktzor, v'leket kitzercha lo tilaket, v'charmecha lo telel, uferet charmecha lo tilaket, leoni v'lager tazo hovotam, ani Adonai Elohechem.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olam. Asher natan lanu Torah emet. V'hayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Yes, God.
We're going to pause now to offer a Misha Berach, a prayer for healing for all of those who are in need of it. What I'll be doing is I'll be reciting our Misha Berach prayer in the Hebrew, reading our list of names, and then there will be a moment for you to add any names that are on your mind in need of healing. Then we'll conclude the Misha Berach prayer for Cholim. Misha Berach Avotenu Avraham Yitzchak Yaakov Imotenu Sarah Rivka Rachel B'leha Hu Yavarech L'Yarapet HaCholim. Alan Goldberg, Amber France, Ann Francis, Anna Silva, Arnold Gorlick, Avram Glazner, Bob Reynolds, Bob Schiffman, Bob Stewart, Carolyn Devon, David Siegel, Don Alexander, Debbie Danforth, Donna Link Strickland, Dr. Les Feldman, Elaine Munoz, Elna King, Esther Magier, Gabriel Joseph Braun, Garney Griggs, George Geisen, Ginger Middleman Sledge, Gregory Seelig, Grover Shockley, Iris Pacone, Jackie Geisen, Jeanette Cobb, Joseph Pacone, Judy Stewart, Kimberly Lang, Lily Williams, Louis Navis, Luann Horn, Maria Beck, Marion Braun, Mark Hermelin, Mia Castro, Nehemiah Levin, Patsy Friedler Cantor, Patty Pillay, Renee Nahosa Jr., Reuven Klein, Robert Cover, Robert Teplitz, Roselle Simon Lebo, Rosario Vasquez, Sarah Purcell, Sarah Ibarra, Sharon Abelo, Sharon Bowling, Sharon Hermelin, Steve Cohen, Tristan France, Victor Akaztegi Dilara, Ahava Shira Bat Chana Leah, Adam ben Sarah, Elisha bas Devora, Elisa bat Masha Meira, Ariel David ben Sarah, Arya ben Ada, Bachman Yoshua ben Chanabatia, Bela bat Sura, Baruch Meir Chaim ben Leah, Batya Leah bat Esther, Bela bat Shira, Bela bat Malka, Bela bat Rivka, Beowulf ben Esther, Benjamin ben Chana, Rachiel bat Malka Esther, Chaim ben Bela, Chana bat Ruth, Chana bat Yudah, Cherna bat Miriam, Chaya bat Mina, Daniel ben Sarah, David Chaim ben Zipporah, Eitan ben Dina, Elisheva bat Devora, Esther Rivka bat Devora, Fagel Esther bat Rachel, Fagi Riva bat Basha, Faivel ben Rachel, Fredel bat Moshe, Hadassah Rivka bat Ahava Shira, Hadassah bat Rhea Leah, Chana Sarah bat Basha, Hinda bat Chava, Leah Rivka bat Miriam, Leah bat Devora bat Miriam, Malka Sima bat Elka, Malka bat Sarah, Malka bat Zev, Masha bat Zismarel, Meir Leah bat Zipporah, Miriam bat Bela, Miriam bat Bracha, Moshe Noach ben Ava Shira, Moshe ben Yeta, Moshe ben Israel bat Chaya, Moshe Katzriel ben Chana, Nachum ben Tovia, Nachama bat Yaakov, Noach ben Dina, Pinchas Velvel ben Leah, Rachel bat Devorah, Raphael ben Wolf, Refuel Meir ben Nechama, Reuven ben Peretz, Reuven Shmuel ben Sarah, Reuven Simcha ben Miro, Rivka Rachel bat Esther Razel, Rivka bat Rosa, Shimon ben Chana, Shlomo ben Lazer, Shmuel Chaim ben Yaakova, Shoshana bat Michal, Shoshana bat Pearl, Tova bat Sarah, Tzipporah bat Michal, Yaakov ben Nechama, Yudit ben Gittel, Yudit Ruth bat Sarah, Yudit Golda bat Elka, Yisrael ben Sarah, Yoel ben Yosef, Yosef ben Ephraim Fishal Halevi, Zev Shaul ben Chaya, Tzviah Miriam bat Avigal Batya. If you have additional names to add, feel free to do so at this time. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yimalei Rachamim Aleichem Lahachazikam Orapotam Vayishlach Lehem Meher Afur Shlema Min HaShamayim Refuat HaNefesh Refuat HaGuf Betoch Sharach HaCholim Echazek Yedidei HaOskim B'tzarchechem Shabbat Milizok Refuah Krovo Lovo Hashtabagalav Izman Kariv V'nomar Amen. Refuah Shlema, complete healing to all of those in need.
Refuah Shlema. This third aliyah you will find on 695. We're going to go all the way to verse 18. And this is the conclusion, in essence, of the Holiness Code. You will, if you look in it, the very end has the very well-known words, V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. If you tuned in last night, I mentioned the story of Hillel, who was asked by a non-Jewish person to be told what he needs to know about Judaism. The rabbi quoted this principle from Kedoshim, but yet flipped it around and taught it as that which is hateful to you, do not do to your neighbor. Somehow we know, I think it's easier to sometimes define the things we don't want, or that we don't like, rather than what we do. And those of you joining for our Torah talk later after the service, we're going to look a little bit more at this last verse and the V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha charge as well. So we're going to be on page 695, verse 11.
Ya'amod Avraham Chaim Ben Eli Shlishit
Baruch Adonai and Baruch. Baruch Adonai and Baruch Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam. Asher Bachar Banu Michol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Notein HaTorah.
Amen. Lo tignovu v'lo techachashu v'lo tishakru ish b'amito v'lo tishavu b'shmi la shaker v'chilal ta'at shem Elohecha ani Adonai lo ta'ashok et reacha v'lo tigzol lo talin pulat zachir idcha ad boker lo tekalel cheresh v'lifnei ver lo titein michshol ve'aretam Elohecha ani Adonai Lo ta'asu avel b'mishpat, lo tisa v'nei dal, v'lo tedar p'nei gadol, v'tzedek tishpot amitecha, lo telech rachil be'amecha, lo ta'amod al dam re'echa, ani Adonai, lo tisna et achicha bilvavecha, ocheach tochiach et amitecha, v'lo tisa alav chet, lo tikom v'lo titor et p'nei amecha, v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, ani Adonai.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet v'hayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
We rise for Chatzi Kaddish as we signal the formal completion of the study of Torah today. As we join in Chatzi Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba v'yalma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechonu yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael bagala uvizman kariv Limeru Amen Yeheshmei Rabba Mevorach Le'olam Alal Me'al Maya Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpar V'yitramam V'yinaseh V'yitadar V'yitalev V'yitalal Shemei Dekudisha Berichu Le'la Min Kol Birchata V'shirata Tushbechata v'nechemata damihiran b'alma v'meru. Amen. You are welcome to be seated. We're going to go on back up to verse 15 for the Maftir Aliyah. And again, it is closing out the Holiness Code.
Yamon. Koresh Michael. Besoshka.
Moshe Zev HaLevi.
Moshe Zev HaLevi, Maftir Chazak.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Amvorach. Baruch Adonai Amvorach le'olam voed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Lo ta'asu avel b'mishpat, lo tisa v'nei dav, lo tedar p'nei gadol, v'tzedek tishpot amitecha, lo telech rachil be'amecha, lo ta'amod al dam re'echa, ani Adonai, lo tisna tachicha b'yovavecha, ol cheach tochiach et amitecha, v'lo tisa alav chet, lo tikam v'lo titor et p'nei amecha, v'yahafta l'reacha kamocha, Ani Adonai.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
We rise for the lifting and tying, or at least the tying, of the Sefer Torah. We're on 174. V'zot HaTorah asher tzal Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael pi Adonai v'yad Moshe. Torah, 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 Tzivah Moshe. Torah, 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 Tzivah Moshe. Torah,
Oh, yes, great.
Torah, Tzivah lanu Moshe. Torah, Torah, You are welcome to be seated. The Haftarah for this Shabbat is taken from the prophet Amos, who, or better known as Amos, if you're in the South, who extends the theme of holiness that's found in our Torah reading. He speaks of holiness on a national level, on a global level. A government that puts power above the needs of the people will be destroyed in the end, is really the message. Those individuals who pursue the creation of a moral and an ethical society will be the reason that a nation survives. Amos reminds us to live up to those moral demands placed upon us, that the ones that we saw in the Torah service, certainly, in the Torah reading, But those are those moral demands that our ancestors and our tradition and God places upon us. So following the introductory bracha on 175, you will find the Haftarah on page 704, I think it is, as we study a little of Amos. And I've got some candy, and don't throw it at Kevin when you're done. I just have some stuff to go around, keep us happy in the end, but don't throw it at him unless you want some candy.
No, I think
Okay.
I'm good. Although this is my daughter's bat mitzvah portion from 9 years ago. So.
Okay, so
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nvi'im tovim v'ratza v'divrehem hanemarim be'emet Baruch atah Adonai abocher b'torah u'moshe avdo u'yisrael amo u'b'nvi'ei ha'emet v'tzedek Halo chivnei chushiyim atem li b'nei Yisrael ne'um Adonai Halo et Yisrael Eleti me'eret mitrayim uflishti mikaptor ve'aram mikir hinei einei Adonai Elohim b'mamlacha hachata Bishmarati ota me'al penei hadama efes ki lo hashmed ashmid et beit Yaakov ne'um Adonai ki hinei anochi metzaveh v'hanioti b'chol hagoyim et beit Yisrael kasher yinoa bakvara v'lo yipol teror aretz B'cherev yamutu kol chata'ei ami ha'omrim lo tagish v'takdim be'adenu hara'a bayom hahu akim et sukkah David hanofelet v'gadarti et pirtehen v'harisotav akim uvenith Tiha kime olam leman Yeshu et sherit edom v'chol hagoyim asher nikra shemi alehem ne'um Adonai oseh zot hine yamim ba'im ne'um Adonai v'nigash choresh ba'koter v'dorech hanavim b'mut Shechazara ve'atifu heharim asis v'chol hagavot titmo gagna v'shavti et shavut ami Yisrael uvanu ari neshamo ve'yashavu v'natu chramim v'shatu et yenam ve'asu Gano ve'achlu et prihem untatim al admatam velo yinachu me al admatam asher natati lahem amar Adonai Elohecha Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Tzur kol ha'olamim, tzadik bechol hadarot, ha'el ha'ne'eman, ha'omer ve'oseh, hamdaber kayem, shekol devarav emet v'tzedek. Ne'eman atahu Adonai Eloheinu, v'ne'emanim devarecha, v'davar echad midvarecha, achor lo yashuv rekam. Ki al melech ne'eman v'rachaman ata, baruch ata Adonai, ha'el ha'ne'eman bechol devarav. Rachem al Tzion ki hi beit chayenu vela aluvat nefesh toshiya bimheira veyamenu baruch ata Adonai mesameh Tzion bevaneha tzamcheinu Adonai Eloheinu be'eliyahu hanavi avdecha u'malchu beit David meshichecha bimheira yavo veyagil libenu al kiso lo yeshev zar v'lo yichalu ot acherim Et kevodo, ki v'shem kachecha nishbata lo, shelo yichmeniro leolam boed, baruch atah Adonai. Magen David. Al HaTorah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al ha'navim ve'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu likdusha ve'limnucha lechavod ultifaret al ha'kol Adonai Eloheinu anachnu modim lach u'barchim otach yitbarach shemcha befi kol chai tamid le'olam bo'ed baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. Yeah. Woo. All right. Thank you.
This stuff, but we'll get some chocolate for us. Life is always better with a little bit of chocolate. It's my contention anyway. Yeshkoch again. Pleasure to hear that being chanted and study with Kevin this Haftarah. It's wonderful. So we turn to page 177. There you will find a prayer for our country. As we read, hopefully together, hopefully you like to do this together. We all add these words to our prayers today. On the left side of the page, the alternative prayer for our country. We know, as I talked about last night, if you tuned in or were here, it was a tough week for us. Each week, this year's been a tough year, but we've seen a lot of difficult challenges, I think, and prayer for our country, and added word for hope that we can become the country that we know we need to be, that we can bring justice and liberty and equality is important. So page 177, if you'll read with me together, all of us, as we add this special prayer for our country on the left side of the page in the small print. Our God and God of our ancestors, grant to our country the will and wherewithal to fulfill its calling to justice, liberty, and equality. May each of us fulfill our responsibilities of citizenship with care, generosity, and gratitude, ever conscious of the extraordinary blessing of freedom, ever mindful of our duties to one another. Bless those who volunteer to labor on behalf of us all. May they find the strength and courage to complete their tasks and fulfill their dreams. May our judges, elected leaders, and all who hold public office exercise their responsibilities with wisdom, fairness, and justice for all. Fill them with love and kindness, and bless them that they may walk with integrity on the paths of peace and righteousness. Creator and protector of all, watch over our armed forces and all those entrusted with our safety as they daily put their lives at risk to protect us and our freedoms. Be with them in times of danger. Give them courage to act with honor and dignity, as well as insight to do what is right in your eyes. Fill us with all the gifts of love and courage, that we may create a world that reflects your glory. May we each respond to the charge of your prophet. For what does Adonai demand of you, but to act justly, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God? May the one who brings peace on high bring peace and prosperity to our world, and keep us in safety, and let us say, Amen. Prayer for the state of Israel you'll find on 178, as we add again a special prayer for the safety and health of the state and of our brethren in the state of Israel. 178 at the top. Avinu Sheba Shamayim, stronghold and redeemer of the people Israel, bless the state of Israel, that it may be the beginning of our redemption. Shield it with your love, Spread over it the shelter of your peace. Guide its leaders and advisors with your light and your truth. Help them with your good counsel. Strengthen the hands of those who defend our Holy Land. Deliver them, crown their efforts with triumph. Bless the land with peace and its inhabitants with lasting joy. And let us say, Amen. We turn forward to page 181. There you will find Ashrei as we invite back up Samuel. If you'll come, and Shane, will you please come on up as well to help us at the closing part of the Torah service with Ashrei, page 181. All right, guys. 1, 2, 3, go.
Ashrei Yoshvei Beitecha, Od Yehalelu HaSelah.
Ashrei Ham Shekacha Lo, Ashrei Ham Shadonai Elohim.
Tehillah LeDavid, Aromim Halohai HaMelech, V'Hashim Le'olam Va'ed.
B'chol Yamav Archeka, V'yalala Shimcha Le'olam Va'ed.
Gadol Adonai Hu Meod, V'Yigdulato En Heker.
Dor Lador Yeshabach Ma'asecha, Ugvarotecha Yagidu.
Hadar Kevod Hodecha, V'divrei Niflotecha Asicha.
Ve'ezuz Narotecha Yomeru, Ugdalatecha Asaprena.
Zeker Rabtucha Yamiyu, V'tzidecha Yeranenu.
Chanun Barachum Adonai, Erech Apayim Ugdal Chesed.
Tov Adonai Lecho, Rachmacha V'chol Ma'asav.
Yodu Adonai Kol Ma'asecha, V'chasidecha Yevarchucha.
Kevod Malchutecha Yomeru, V'gvurotecha Yedaberu.
Lehodia Lifnei Adam Gevurotav, Uchvod Hadar Malchuto.
Malchutecha Malchut Kol Olamim, U'mimshal Lecha B'chol Dor V'dor.
Somech Adonai Lechol HaNoflim, V'zokef Lechol HaKfufim.
Einei Kol Elecha Yisaberu, V'atar Noten Lahem Et Ochlam Be'ita.
Poteach et Yadecha, Umaspia Lechol Chai Ratzon.
Tzaddik Adonai B'chol Darav, V'chasid B'chol Ma'asav.
Karov Adonai Lechol Korav, Lechol Asher Yikra'u Be'emet.
Retzon Yirad Yaseh, Ve'et Shavatam Yishma V'yoshiem.
Shomer Adonai et Kol Ahava, V'et Kol Harshayim Yashmid.
Adonai Yedaber Pi, V'varech Kol Basar She'kol Sholem Ba'ed.
V'anachnu nevarech Ya me'atav Yad Olam. Hallelujah. We rise, page 183 for Seder Hachnasat Torah. As we return the Torah scroll to the Aron HaKodesh. 183.
Hallelujah, Shem Adonai, Yisrael Shem Adonai.
Odo al eretz v'shamayim v'yarem keren v'yamo. Tehillah lecho chasidav lifnei Yisrael am kerovo. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Mizmor leDavid, Havu l'Adonai b'nei Elim, Havu l'Adonai kavod va'oz, Havu l'Adonai kavod shemo, Ishtachavu l'Adonai behadrat kodesh, Kol Adonai al hamayim, El hakavod hirim, Adonai al mayim rabim. Kol Adonai ba'koach, Kol Adonai behadar, Kol Adonai shover arazim. Mim. Vayishaber Adonai et arze halevanon. Vayarkidem kemo egel levanon v'siryon kemo ben reimim. Kol Adonai chotzef lavotesh. Kol Adonai yachil midbar. Yachil Adonai midbar kadesh. Kol Adonai yecholel ayalot. Vayechesof yarot uvehechalo kulo homer kavod. Adonai lamavu yashab. Vayeshev Adonai melech leolam. Adonai oz le'amo yitain. Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom. 184, Uvnocho Yomar. As the Aron HaKodesh is closed, we remain standing for our Musaf service, page 184, as Samuel and Shane and Rabbi Richards together lead us. 184, Chatzi Kaddish.
Yitkada
Yitkada Shemei Rabba. Amadi Rabbi Rute Ve'amich Machute. Israel, Bagala, Ulizman Karim, Beineru, Amen, Yeheshmei Rabba Mevorach, Ve'olam Ulo Ve'omaya, Yitbarach, V'yishtabach, V'yitahar, V'yidroma, V'yitnaseh, V'yitadar, V'yitalev, V'yitala, Shmer Kudesha Brihu, Le'olam Bircho Birchata B'shirata, Tushvechata Nechemata, Dami Yira Le'alma, Ve'yimeru, Amen.
We begin the Amidah together, page 185 on the left.
Kadosh,
When you're through, you're welcome to be seated. As always, please take your time.
I'm gonna do it on the second side.
You'll find the singing of Yismechu on page 189.
Yismechu v'malchutecha, shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'kodecha Shabbat. Yismechu v'malchutecha, shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'kodecha Shabbat. Mekadesh Shabbat, Ulam Yismehu
Yismechu v'malechutecha, shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'koreh oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'koreh oneg Shabbat. Shvi v'hashvi ratzita bo Shabbat Emdat Yamim Lotokarata Zecher Severei Shabbat V'malechutecha, shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'koreh oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'koreh oneg Shabbat. We continue page 203, Kaddish Shalem.
Yitkara Shemei Rabbah, Bil Madi Rabbi Hute, Bil Michma Hute, Chayachon Uvyam Echon, Ubay Chayim Becho Be Yisrael, Bagalal Mizman Karim Beimeru.
Amen.
Yehi Shmei Rabbah Mevorach, Le'olam U'ma Be'omaya, Yitvarach. Yitvarach, Yishtabach, Yitar, Yitrama, Yitnaseh, Yitar, Yitrana, Yithalal, Shmere Kudesha, Brihu, Le'olam, Yikol, Birata, Bishirata, Tishbechata, Nechemata, Dani, Rabbi, Almal, Bimeru.
Amen.
Yitada, Shothal, Israel, Kadar, Malchut, Ebrahim, Bimeru.
Amen.
Tishlamam, Yalam, Yishamaya, V'hayim, Ehlenu, Be'achol, Yisrael, Bimeru.
Amen.
Oseh Shalom, Bimroha, Uyaseh Shalom, Aleinu, Be'achol, Yisrael, Bimeru.
Amen. Page 204, you'll find Ein Keloheinu as we join together.
Ein Keloheinu, Ein Kadoneinu, Ein Kemokeinu, Ein Kroshienu, Mi Keloheinu, Mi Kadoneinu, Mi Kemokeinu, Mi Kroshienu. No Eloheinu, no Eloheinu, no Eloheinu, no Moshienu. Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu. Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu
Moshienu, Ata Hushiktiru, Avotenu, Lefanecha Eketoret Hasa. We rise for Aleinu on page 205.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon ha'kol, l'tetiv l'aleotzer b'reshit, shelo asanu k'mirei haratzon, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo samchel kinu kachem, negor aleinu kechol hamona, barachnu korim, u'nisachim u'modim, lifnei melech, malchei hamalchim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, she'emunot shamayim ve'yosef haaretz, u'Moshe mikmaro b'shamayim ima'am, u'shvinatu zo, v'gor b'nei Elohim, hu Eloheinu Echad, emet malkeinu v'tezulato, nakatu v'torato, v'datayom, v'hashemota, v'levavecha, hi Adonai hu Elohim, b'shamayim v'ima'al, ve'al haaretz v'itachat,
You are welcome to be seated. You guys want to go sit over there? You'll help with Adon Olam in a minute. As we prepare to recite Kaddish today, we continue to give our hugs of support to Lydia Hirsch on the death of Evan Hirsch, to the extended Cohen family, to Micheline in particular, on the death of Bernard Cohen, and to the Chester family, to Kang on the death of her mother, Linji Sintracool, as they continue to move through the Shloshim period. We also mention the names of those whose yortzites occur today and the week that is coming. Nisim Bitan, Rose Cohen, Max Goldman, Sophia Gross, Leo Hirsch, Libby Horowitz, Annie Lehman, Jacqueline McAlman, Jeanette Millican, Jaime Ruth, John Samela, Beatrice Sterenberg, Ben Tudson, and Marcel Liederman. Those reciting Kaddish Tome, the Mourner's Kaddish, you'll find it on 207. If there's any names I didn't recite, please feel free to add them out loud or in your hearts at this moment. 207. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Bialma divrach irute v'amlich malchute. B'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala ubizman karib v'imru. Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah mevarach leolam olamei olmaya. Yit barach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shemei dekudisha b'richu. La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran bi'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. May be seated. I know we got word this morning that Rhonda Gorinsky's father passed away in Louisiana. So she was already there, and we will get information as soon as we can out for that. But we certainly give her our hugs of support as she endures the loss of her father. So again, you can watch your email in the next few days. We will get an announcement out of details. Of course, we don't recite Kaddish until after the funeral, so we'll be able to continue to give her hugs through the Shiva period for her. Keep those in mind. A few announcements for us. As always, please join us for Morning Minyan. We always need help making a minyan, and we're moving back into our sanctuary, or in person, I should say, more and more. So we certainly want to help make a minyan here in our building. Tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. in person, and Sunday, and of course the rest of the days of the week at 7:30. Sundays and Tuesdays are in person only. And Wednesdays and Fridays, we've added back now. I know it's a little confusing, but it's okay. We'll get it. Wednesdays and Fridays. So basically Sunday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. Come here and help make a minyan. If you want to tune in from afar, we are keeping Zoom on for the time being. As we transition back into the building, you'll find that on Zoom for Wednesdays and Fridays as well. So and Mondays and Thursdays, of course. So we are working towards some sense of regular normalcy. It's going to take a little while for all of us to get there, but we're doing it safely and trying to make progress. There are a number of things coming up. You can look in your flyer for your handout, your flyer for a lot of the announcements. And Jessica, thank you. I know you're in the back. We appreciate you working hard on putting this flyer together for us each week. You can see some of the announcements, some of the things coming up. Let me remind you and point out Sunday, which is tomorrow at 1 o'clock. You can see the link that you can register for a Celebrating the Remarkable. It's a free virtual event as partners with the American Associates of Ben Gurion University of the Negev. We are celebrating Dr. Ruth K. Westheimer as she receives her first honorary doctorate from an Israeli university. I commented about this last night. That's hard to believe. She's been involved in the Jewish community for a very long time. I mentioned last night that I had the honor of her talking to our rabbinical school senior class long time ago, 25 years ago almost now, and she was quite a spitfire and an interesting lady, so I have no doubt that the program will be interesting to watch and fun to enjoy and learn from. So you can again get take your flyer home if you want with the link there, or you'll see it in the weekly email and on Facebook page. We also have a program here on Tuesday evening at 7 o'clock on Zoom. Discussion with Talia Tzor Avner, who is the JNF task force. She oversees the task force on water solutions and cutting-edge development of Israel's Arava region. We always think of JNF as having to do with trees, but they have shifted in more recent times to really do water reclamation and water solutions for the arid region of Israel. Fascinating stuff, so feel free. You can RSVP for the Zoom link for that to participate in the sustainability discussion on our program on 7 o'clock on Tuesday. Also, very important, please also RSVP for our Lag BaOmer picnic Wednesday. It's this Wednesday at 5 o'clock in our courtyard. We'll have some falafel dinner, rock painting, s'mores. That's for you guys. Music and lots of fun. Monday is the day to RSVP by, please, because it's food and there is a cost, but we need the RSVP, especially for the numbers to make sure we have enough food. But come join us. It's just a fun outdoor. Hopefully the weather looks like it should be beautiful, and we can just gather together as we celebrate the 33rd day of the Omer counting, and as we move forward towards Shavuot. Then finally, you will see there's a J-Serve program, which Rabbi Richards is actually helping out with tomorrow for our 7th through 12th graders after religious school, 1:30 p.m. It will take place at the JCC, but there's a virtual option available, and lunch is provided. And again, you can look in your weekly email, or you can look in your flyer if you are a 7th through 12th grader or a parent of one and want to get your kid signed up. You can still do that, I'm guessing. So what are we talking about tomorrow?
I'm doing Tikkun Olam and the world taking care of it.
Cool. Those are good topics to definitely be exploring. So come join us tomorrow on that one with the JCC through the JServe program. Finally, you see at the bottom of your flyer, those of you here looking at it, you'll see we're adding back our Torah talk, our text study following Shabbat morning services. We're going to be outside in the courtyard. There is a light box lunch just to keep you from your stomachs from growling while you listen and discuss Torah. So come join us right after the service. You can head out, I think, through the social hall, and then out is where you'll find it. And we'll just study for 20, 30 minutes as we eat and nosh and learn a little more Torah. So that's a great opportunity. Again, coming back to some of our more regular activities pre-COVID. We're trying to do that as well. I think I got all the announcements that are necessary for the morning. If not, get online and check us out on Facebook and or your weekly email. There's other things going on, certainly, as we go forward, so you can look and see what's going on in the community and around the Jewish world. So page 211, you will find Adon Olam. You guys got? Go stand over there or next to me, either one. Page 211 as we join together in Adon Olam.
Adon Olam Hashem Malach B'terem Kol Yetzir Nivra Le'en Nasa V'Chesed Kol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Ve'acharei Kichlot HaKol Levado Imloch Nora Vehu Haya Vehu Ove Vehu Yeh Bezifara Vehu Yeh Bezifara Vehu Echad Ve'en Sheni Leham Shilo Lehachbira Veli Reishim, Veli Tachlit, Velo Ha'oz Ha'misra, Velo Ha'oz Ha'misra, Vehu Eli, Vechai Goali, Vetzor Chevli, Vehetzara, Vehu Nisi, Humanosli, Venat Kosi Veyom Ekra, Venat Kosi Veyom Ekra, Veyado Achiruchi, Vehetisham, Ve'ahira, Vehimaruchi, Geviati, Adonai li Velohira, Adonai.
We say Shabbat Shalom. If you'll rise and turn to page 77, there you will find Kiddush for this Shabbat morning, Shabbat afternoon, so to speak. 77, if all of you on the Bima, as you get a cup, go lead us. We join together. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם אותי לעולם אותי לעולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית העולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית העולם.
כן ברך אדוני את יום השבת ויקדשהו בריא
לחיים.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם בורא פרי
אמן. חיים. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Hey, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Hey, Shabbat Shalom. Hey, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Hey, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We thank everyone. Phil and Sherry, thanks for being ushers. Thanks, Kevin, for an awesome Haftarah. And Rabbi Richards for a beautiful Devar Torah. And Joshua, give that back to me, please.
I'm fine with it, doesn't matter.